I flew to London a few weeks later. I was covering Wimbledon, the world's premier tennis competition, and one of the few events I go to where the crowd never boos and no one is drunk in the parking lot. England was warm and cloudy, and each morning I walked the tree-lined streets near the tennis courts, passing teenagers queued up for leftover tickets and vendors selling strawberries and cream. Outside the gate was a newsstand that sold a half a dozen colorful British tabloids featuring photos of topless women, paparazzi pictures of the royal family, horoscopes, sports, lottery tickets, and a wee bit of actual news. Their top headline of the day was written on a small chalkboard that leaned against the latest stack of papers, and usually read something like Diana in row with Charles, or Gaza to team and give me millions. People scooped up these tabloids, devoured their gossip, and on previous trips to England, I'd always done the same. But now, for some reason, I found myself thinking about Maury whenever I read anything silly or mindless. I kept picturing him there, in the house with the Japanese maple and the hardwood floors, counting his breaths, squeezing out every moment with his loved ones. Well, I spent so many hours on things that meant absolutely nothing to me, personally. Movie stars, supermodels, the latest noise out of Princess Di or Madonna or John F. Kennedy Jr. In a strange way, I envied the quality of Maury's time even as I lamented its diminishing supply. Why did we bother with all the distractions we did? Back home, the O.J. Simpson trial was in full swing. And there were people who surrendered their entire lunch hours watching it, then take the rest of it so they could watch it at night. They didn't even know O.J. Simpson. They didn't know anyone involved in the case, yet they gave up days, weeks of their lives addicted to someone else's drama. I remembered what Maury said during our visit. The culture we have does not make people feel good about themselves. You have to be strong enough to say if you don't buy the culture, if it doesn't work, then don't buy it. Maury, true to these words, had developed his own culture long before he got sick. Discussion groups, walks with friends, dancing to the music in the Harvard Square Church. He started a project called The Greenhouse where poor people could receive mental health services. He read books to find new ideas for his classes, visited with colleagues, kept up with old students, wrote letters to distant friends. He took more time eating and looking at nature and wasted no time in front of TVs, sitcoms, or movies of the week. He had created a cocoon of human activities, conversation, interaction, affection, that filled his life like an overflowing soup bowl. I had also developed my own culture, work. I did 4 or 5 media jobs in England, juggling them like a clown. I spent 8 hours a day on a computer, feeding my stories back to the States. Then I did TV pieces, traveling with a crew throughout parts of London. I also phoned in radio reports every morning and afternoon. This was not an abnormal load. Over the years, I had taken labor as my companion and had moved everything else to the side. In Wimbledon, I ate meals at my little wooden work cubicle and thought nothing of it. On one particularly crazy day, a crush of reporters had tried to chase down Andre Agassi and his famous girlfriend Brooke Shields, and I had gotten knocked over by a British photographer who barely muttered sorry before sweeping past, his huge metal lenses strapped around his neck. I thought something else Maury had told me. So many people walk around with a meaningless life. They seem half asleep, even when they're busy doing things that they think are important. This is because they're chasing the wrong things. The way you get the meaning into your life is to devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to the community around you, and devote yourself to creating something that gives you purpose and meaning. I knew he was right. Not that I did anything about it. At the end of the tournament, and the countless cups of coffee I drank to get through it, I closed my computer, cleaned out my cubicle, and went back to the apartment to pack. It was late. The TV was nothing but a fuzz. I flew to Detroit, arrived late in the afternoon, dragged myself home, and went to sleep. I awoke to a jolting, or a startling, piece of news. The unions at my newspaper had gone on strike. The place was shut down. There were picketers at the front entrance and marchers chanting up and down the streets. As a member of the union, I had no choice. I was suddenly, and for the first time in my life, out of a job, out of a paycheck, and pitted against my employers. Union leaders called my home and warned me against any contact with my former editors, many of whom were my friends, telling me to hang up if they tried to call and plead their case. "We're gonna fight this till we win," the union leader swore, sounding like soldiers. I felt confused and depressed. Although the TV and the radio were nice supplements, the newspaper had been my lifeline, my oxygen. When I saw my stories in the print each morning, I knew that in at least one way I was alive. Now it was gone, and the strike continued. The first day, the second day, the third day. There were worried phone calls and rumors that this could not go on for months. Everything I had known was upside down. There were sporting events each night that I would have to go, that I would have gone to cover. Instead, I stayed home and watched them on TV. I had grown used to thinking that readers somehow needed my column. I was stunned at how easily things went without me. After a week of this, I picked up the phone and I dialed Maury's number. Connie brought him the phone. "You're coming to visit?" he said, less a question than a statement. "Well, could I? How about on Tuesday?" "Tuesday would be good," I said. "Tuesday would be just fine." Alright, I'm going to continue with the flashback in just a second.